The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
All right, it's the 100th BS Report. Some people predicted we'd never get here. I was one of them, actually, and we are here. So we had to get a big guest, and he's been on the show a year ago, and now he's on again. The commissioner of the NBA, Mr. David Stern. How are you?
I'm very well.
What are you doing right now? Are you sitting in your office?
I'm sitting in my office.
What's been the big thing that you've had to do today? What's on the agenda? Are you you're dealing with summer of 2010 nonstop?
What's the summer of 2010?
The summer of 2010 is when every good player in your league becomes a free agent, except for like 3 guys.
Oh, no. I'm dealing with, we had all kinds of meetings and business activities.
Well, that's every day.
Just met with the secretary, representative to the of the Secretary General of the UN, who's a special advisor on sport, to see how we could line up sports leagues and all sports organizations to deal with the Millennium Development Goals. We're going over finances in light of what's been going on in all businesses and the world around us. We're sort of dealing with marketing campaigns. We're dealing with negotiations for new licensees and new sponsors. And we're, occasionally, but not quite so much occasionally, but a lot, looking at boxes and, box scores and seeing how good some of our teams are doing and how disappointing some of them are performing. It's fun. That's what makes the sports league so much fun.
Well, it looks like you're headed for a season this year that's a little reminiscent of the seasons that I grew up with in the 80s, where you have an upper class. And this year it looks like we have 3 teams that are going to be really, really, really good. I mean, we might have 3 teams that win 65 games. And you have a lower class, and then you have a bunch of teams in the middle that, might make the playoffs, might not. But do you think this is a good thing for the league when you have these 3 great teams?
Speaking as a fan, I think that the middle class seems to be a little bit broader than it has in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also, given developments, I'm not sure your limitation to just 3 teams is exactly accurate.
Well, because you're saying if there's a big trade or...
Well, even, you're not including, for example, the Spurs, who on the basis of their record may not deserve to be included, but when you recognize that Ginobili and Parker were out for long periods of time,
right?
You got to wait and see how they are going to develop. Dallas seems to be in the process of getting on track. There's all kinds of fun stuff that appears to be in the process of developing, and we'll see. I mean,
I'm with you on the Spurs.
I focus on the Spurs. I'm curious to see whether, Miami is going to. I'm not suggesting they're going to be perhaps have as good a record as your elite teams, but
right.
I tend to focus more on the Miamis and the Atlantas and the New Jerseys.
Yeah, it seems like San Antonio and Miami are the 2 that might be able to make a jump.
Right.
I agree with you. If I had to pick any team in the West to make the finals, I think I would pick the Spurs over the Lakers because I don't think the Lakers defend as well as people. People just discount that part of it, and then you look at the last 20 years, and defense wins every year.
You mean you're betting against the Lakers, Almighty Simmons?
Yes. Yeah, it's only a little bit biased. And by the way, how dare you schedule that Christmas Day game for Los Angeles instead of Boston? The champ should have that game. It always. I don't know how the Celtics always get. They always get there's obstacles put in front of them.
I think you're being very parochial. That's what I think. And that's a historic time, and Boston's on the road.
Oh, stop. We should have had that game.
Okay.
It
hardly matters. It really
It's a
doesn't.
5 o'clock game. Well, that is probably the best Christmas day. I guess the first Shaq Kobe game from a hype standpoint was better, but I think just from a pure basketball standpoint, these teams they develop some bad blood. And it's good.
Don't get, let's not get too dramatic. I'm focused more on the fact that we've got 5 games on Christmas Day that are going to be on TV.
5?
5. We've got 2 on ABC, 1 on ESPN, and 2 on TNT. We're starting at 12 noon in Orlando, and we end up with Dallas at Portland. And it's going to be a great, great day of just lots of NBA basketball.
So was that a concerted effort to maybe turn the NFL as Thanksgiving, so you guys have now taken Christmas?
No, it just was an opportunity for us to just do a lot of games, to do something a little bit different. It was suggested by one or the other of our partners, and we said, "Great, let's give it a try."
All right, I have 3. Every time somebody has an interview on you, they always have to ask tough questions.
Oh boy, here we go.
I want to talk about the fact that in 2 months you will have been the NBA commissioner for a whopping 25 years.
And I don't want to talk about that.
No, come on, you have to. But I want to.
I don't have to do anything.
Well, I'm going to coerce you. But I had 3 questions that I wanted to just get your take on.
Happy to answer.
First of all, the summer of 2010 stuff and teams, now kind of trying to position themselves for something that's 18, 19, 20 months away. As a basketball fan, you can't be totally crazy about this, right?
That's just a fact of life in an era of free agency that began 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. It happens that the drumbeat goes for a few days, but you guys will run out of steam on that, as you always do.
What do you mean, you guys? Why am I lumped into the you guys?
Well, that's how I think of you. You're one of you guys. No, you know what I'm saying.
I know.
People will. I mean, how many times can there be a headline that 2010 is a year where perhaps the best class in NBA recent history will be coming of age? But so much can happen between now and then, and that's just the reality of. Someone was asking me about free agency, and I remember when we, in effect, declared it, that there was a time when sports teams thought they had the rights to players for life. Right. But you were involved in that legal case 30 years ago. That was more than 30 years ago, and that happened in baseball, whether it be Catfish Hunter or Messersmith or whoever was playing, and in basketball through the Robertson case and the settlement of it. So we've been living in the era where when players are projected to have their contract expire and become free agents, that's what they are able to anticipate, and that's what teams can anticipate, and that's the deal. So I don't think we should hyperventilate about it. All right. Well, the irony of this is that way back in the day, you were one of the people involved in all of these lawsuits, especially I think you were involved in the Ask Robertson one, right? Correct. And were you against the NBA or were you working for the NBA? No, I was working for the NBA and was in favor of a settlement which dealt with free agency. And it didn't really fully play out until, I think, 76, 77. Well, 76 in an interesting kind of way, and I'd have to go back and look at the records, but I think what we did was we made an 11-year deal at the time. Mm-hmm. And, I could say, who cares about what happens after that? I'm not going to be around in the NBA. So, and I think it was either the first 5 or 6 had free agency but with compensation. Right. And then the next 5 or 6 had free agency, period. Mm-hmm. So that was the first sort of clearly negotiated deal between us and the players having to do with the subject of free agency. Well, that's what leads to one of my favorite random dopey stories from that era, was that they were battling over whether there would be compensation or not in the late 70s, and Jeff Mullins, who I think played for the Warriors, suggested, well, how long does this take to get to the Supreme Court? And they said, 4 years. So he said, well, why don't we give them compensation for 4 years, and then after that it becomes free? I forget if it was 4 years or 5 years or whatever. But I always thought it was interesting that a player suggested
the key thing that got it going.
That's interesting. I don't remember it specifically, but he was in negotiations, and I think that's absolutely right.
Look at that. I came up with a fact that you couldn't remember.
No,
it's a proud day for me.
Well, there's probably a long list of them as I've in my declining years, but those are fun facts.
Well, all right, so you're fine with summer 2010. Tell me about the economy, and I mean, are you at the point where you're going to start to really seriously get worried about attendance and luxury suites and I see empty court sides, all that stuff?
My management style is characterized by worry. Period. We worry all the time, and we're in and getting deeper in the worst economic times of probably almost, of 90% of the living people.
Right.
And so you worry about attendance, you worry about suites, you worry about club seats, you worry about sponsors, you worry about everything. And you work very hard to operate efficiently, give the best value that you can give, and hopefully managing to that time when all of this gets better, whenever that is.
Do you see potentially any of these franchises, that aren't drawing as much, really falling into real danger?
No, because we have a group of owners who are in a pretty good shape financially and able to withstand periods of down economy.
Because there are a couple teams that, that were kind of on the fringe anyway, and now if they're not getting that gate revenue, it could be.
Well, but actually, the gate revenue, we're for this season, we're going to do about the same as last season, which was a very good year, the third highest in our history.
You mean you're saying through 7 weeks it's been the same pace?
Yes.
But merchandising's got to be down, right?
Actually, as a league, we're hitting our numbers this year.
Interesting. But you won't know for sure until after Christmas.
Correct. And we expect there to be lots of surprises in all businesses, and so we're managing to whatever negative surprises we could anticipate.
Now, one of the smart things you did was you made that giant deal with ESPN and ABC and the digital rights and Turner and all that stuff. You did that last year before the economy kind of turned. That worked out.
We're feeling pretty good about that. We had some concerns back then, and we made the judgment and recommended to the owners two things. One, that we make a long-term deal, that we do it with modest increases for the benefit of our partners, and that we increase the incentives for them through granting of digital and other rights. And so we had a deal where we went up 7% this year and then 3% for the next 7 years. And we think that we have set up with a framework where we're doing fine for the long term and that our network partners are likely to do fine as well. And that's important. So, and then we made a judgment that Turner, which has an important infrastructure that's skilled at production, television, and websites, would be a much more efficient runner of our digital assets. Mm-hmm. And so we entered into an arrangement with them, which will hopefully profit them as well as us, but meant that we didn't have to be involved in the infrastructure that we thought would be problematic in terms of adding headcount and the like. Indeed, we used the move to Atlanta to considerably reduce our headcount devoted to those digital assets.
Whereas baseball and football went in the other direction and have these giant networks. I thought that was interesting.
We hope to have a giant network. Don't get me wrong. I mean, NBA TV is something we're working on with respect to its distribution. NBA.com is something which has enormous visits and huge video streaming counts and the like. NBA League Pass is the same. Its counterparts in other sports, and NBA Wireless is important to us. And collectively, as NBA Digital, we are nested with Turner, which has in effect a profit sharing arrangement with us, but has so many other properties as well that it is able to more efficiently, and I think at a lower cost, do it. And we just made the judgment that there was someone that was going to do it better than us, and that it would be wise for us to put our corporate egos aside and do what was best for the long term.
Well, two great things came out of that deal. First of all,
I know. You're going to tell me, Gary Payton and C. Webb together with Ahmad.
You're not supposed to watch that show. I have all these people.
I
that
know.
Work for you,
I watched it last night. Didn't
it.
you think that wig was off the charts last night?
It's so good. I'm so happy. It really pushes Tuesday nights for me to a whole other level. But the other thing that's great, and nobody even knows about this, it's like a little secret. And yeah, it's expensive. I'm not going to say that. Not for everybody to shell out $180 or whatever it is, but the broadband on your laptop where you can get every game is awesome.
But that's under $100. That's not.
Oh, it is. It's $99.
No, it's less than that, I think, because the expensive part is if you have League Pass, which I'm sure you have.
Yes.
And I think if you play your cards right, if you have League Pass, you get the broadband for nothing.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Okay.
See, they sent me one of your PR guys sent me a link and was like, "Hey, we set this up for you. This is cool. We think you'll like it."
Oh, God.
I was like, "Oh, well,
okay,
I'll check it out."
The funny part was that you were entitled to it anyway. You're just too lazy.
Yeah, I was too lazy.
No, but that's the future, and we stream those games on a global basis.
It's amazing. And I was like, "Yeah, I'll check it out." A week later, I'm watching a Celtics-Hawks game in a New York City hotel room. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is.
Hey, we've
gone to another level.
Hey, you could do that. ESPN games are available, often on mobile.
Yes.
There's, ESPN has been at the cutting edge with respect to technology.
Yeah, but to be able to get every game, I could be, it seems like I'm working now with my wife, we watch TV, and I'm actually watching Seattle and Oklahoma City and Dallas or whoever. It's just funny. But Speaking of Seattle, that's the third thing we have to talk about.
Okay, so the first was 25 years. The second.
No. We're about to talk about 25 years.
No,
I'm
we're
saving
past
that for the end.
Now we're on to Seattle.
No.
We're on number 3 now.
No. The first was summer 2010. Second was the economy.
Right.
And then third is Seattle.
Right.
The last time you were on my podcast, this thing had not developed, and I got to say, I was disappointed with how it was handled, and I just felt like that city had good fans, and I just wasn't happy with the way it played out. I just thought it set a bad precedent for if you don't build a new arena for your team, you could lose your team. Was basically the lesson I learned from that. Is that incorrect?
Well, I would say the lesson, I don't know that there was a lesson, but the fact is that everyone agreed that a new arena was necessary. Exactly how it was going to get funded became an issue, and that issue became very contentious.
But when you say everyone, is that necessarily true? It seemed like the fans liked it.
No, but I think that as an economic matter, the city, everyone agreed that they needed a bigger platform in order to compete over time. That it would have worked for the short term, but as a long-term basis, they needed a new building. And there was a huge attempt to build. And interestingly enough, there was along the way, it became contentious where the city voters passed a bill that said, in effect, we won't give any money to this. Because they said that any money given has to make the same amount as a treasury bill, et cetera. And the state legislature said, we think that the teams should cut payrolls. We're not interested in making any contribution. Strangely enough, by the time the team was getting ready to leave, the city had found $75 million. It was asking the state to quickly legislate another 75, and they were rounded up a private investor that had another 150, and so suddenly there was $300 million available for a new building, but by then it was too late. So I'm not thrilled about the outcome in Seattle either. I share your reservations.
But my one problem with it was it seems like those guys bought the team with the intent to move it. And it seemed like pretty obvious from the get-go that they weren't genuinely interested in keeping the team there.
That's not what their actions, in my view, confirm at all.
You investigated this?
They spent lots of money with plans and lobbying and doing all the things that the ownership group before them had done, but they did even more, and it wasn't to be. And in fact, the actual economic opportunity in Seattle with a new building was far larger than any other city that team could have moved to.
But at the same time, this was a team that won the 1979 title and had really good fans. And I think you've been a commissioner over any other commissioner who cared about the fans.
Believe me,
more than anybody.
It's a big loss anytime you leave a city. I don't say that, I don't want to be glib about it. It's even if, you name the city.
Right.
Whether it's Vancouver or Kansas City, Omaha, or Rochester or Syracuse or Philadelphia, or you name it, or Sheboygan.
Right.
We've had
Cincinnati.
if you step back and take a longer view, Cincinnati, you see that's what happens. And it's and we kept it going for a long time, but then we sort of haven't been doing so well recently.
Do you foresee that city getting another basketball team? Would there have to be a new stadium first?
Well, I think that as the plans develop for a new arena, and I'm sure there will be, that likelihood increases, although I don't know that there's an expansion coming anytime soon. On the other hand, this economy is going to contain certain disruptions, and out of those disruptions may come opportunities for some cities, and maybe Seattle will be one of those. I don't know anything, but we've certainly agreed to keep Seattle in the loop and talk to people there, and we have been.
So when you say disruptions, that means a franchise potentially having to move because the market.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could San Diego be in the mix for that?
They don't have a building at all. They have a very old building that I think, used to play in 100 years ago.
Right.
Maybe 25.
I feel like they should have a team. They got a lot of money in San Diego. I don't know how that didn't work out. You figure if you have to sell luxury suites and courtsides, all that stuff, you're doing it in San Diego.
It's they're sort of. I remember in the old days. Although we've met with the mayor of San Diego along the way, they're a nice potential city, but they tend to be squeezed a little bit to the north, a little bit to the south, and a little bit to the west.
All right. Well, I'm still really disappointed about this Seattle thing, but it sounds like you're at least upset about it.
I'm not going to disabuse you of the notion. It wouldn't have been our first choice, and I'm not sure that anyone did a particularly great job there.
Okay. All right. 25 years. I'm going to feed you a couple things that I'm going to guess what your answer will be, and then you tell me what the answer is.
Okay.
So your 25 years span from February 1st, 1984. All the way through today. So you're 2 months away from hitting this. Actually, you're like 6 weeks away from hitting 25 years. Which, when you think about it, the president of the United States can only serve 8 years. So you've served 3 full-term presidencies.
Well, in fairness, let's not be particular. Let's not be quite that grandiose. Pete Rozelle did it for 33 years.
Okay. So you're 8 away from his record.
No, it's safe.
That's it? You're not going to go for 34?
He's safe. His record is safe.
All right. In that 25 years, best player, I'm going to say you say Jordan. Best player you've seen in person.
Oh, boy. I can't do it.
What do you mean you can't do it?
Because you capture different moments, okay? On a competitive, continuing basis, he was dominant, but I got to see in person, I guess I'm not going to, Dr. J.
Mm-hmm.
Although, actually. You know, he was a little older at the end there. I got to see Magic do it in a way that was extraordinary. I got to see Kareem still skyhooking. I got to see Larry look down, step back, and sink to three. I mean, Michael was extraordinary, and may ultimately be the greatest player to ever play our game. So it's a safe pick, but I feel conflicted.
So it's almost like you're the dad and you don't want to pick who your favorite kid was.
I'm the uncle and all of
them. Or the uncle. I like it.
That's
okay.
Correct. That's
Single greatest game you've seen in person. I am going to say Game 4 of the 1984 finals that went into overtime, Lakers-Celtics, was a seminal moment for the league. That's my prediction.
Yeah, okay. But close number 2 was the one, was it Chicago-Portland and Michael's hitting all those threes?
Oh, yeah, Game 1.
Turns to Magic and he shrugs like, I don't understand it. It keeps going in. What a performance.
That was Game 1 of the 92 finals, yeah.
Right. But Lakers-Celtics, 84, I'm with you.
Because during that series you're thinking, oh, my God, this is what we dreamed for. We're getting a great matchup, great basketball. We're on prime time for the first time in like 6 years.
Yeah.
It all came together.
I tell you the truth. Who has time to dream? You're just hoping, please don't get into fights. Don't clothesline anybody. Referees, don't do anything rash. Let's have, no injuries, no violence, no missed calls. You fall into that trap very soon when you become commissioner.
So that leads to my next question. Worst game you've seen in person? I got to go with the JoJo English Derek Harper fight, which happened like 4 rows in front of you.
Yeah, there I was, and wearing the most ridiculous tie. That was even worse. But no, I don't have a favorite worst game. That was a bad experience, but I'll tell you, there have been some where terrible injuries. But that's up there. I'll go with that one. That's a good answer.
Well, you're caught on camera, and you have this look that's coming.
My God, can you believe what's happening right here? What are these people thinking?
And you have to eventually make a decision on everything, and you're hoping it doesn't escalate. Like it's pretty interesting, the face you have. Best single-season team that you've seen during this 25 years. Now, the answer you should have is the 86 Celtics, but I think you're going to say 96 Bulls. Because they were like rock stars. I mean, that was crazy that season.
The Celtics had a Hall of Fame team.
They did.
Okay? And the Bulls were rock stars. I'm going with the Celtics.
Thank you. Oh, that's so nice of you.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it for you.
It was an amazing team. Like, you look back and you think, like, Bill Walton coming off the bench. Just looking at that on paper, and he still had his fastball a little bit. That will never be topped.
What was Scott Wedman's last year?
That was Scott Wedman was the seventh man on that team.
Yeah, I mean, what an interesting. It was very interesting to a young commissioner.
And
McHale, Bird, and Parrish.
And Bird in his prime. Because if you're going to have a greatest team, you got to have. Okay. It's got to be a top 5 guy.
Was it Ainge and DJ?
Ainge and DJ, yeah. Huh. Yep.
Huh.
Crazy. Best, you won't answer this, you're going to go out political on me, but best owner, model owner for the last 25 years, the guy that you would point to and say, that's how you run a team.
Well,
you're not going to answer this.
It's a close question. I have 2 favorites, okay? And I actually have 3 favorites. It's interesting. Bill Davidson.
Detroit.
Abe Pollin. And Larry Miller of Utah.
Really? Abe Pollin's he doesn't own them anymore, right?
He does.
Or does he? Oh, he does. Okay.
Abe does. And he relies upon his staff to do what they're going to do. And Bill, relies upon the pros to do what they're going to do. And Larry creates an environment where Jerry Sloan can be the coach for 20 years.
Should I read anything into that you didn't pick an owner who was like under 55 years old?
Well, no, because I'm going back 25 years, and and those owners have been here for most of those times. Abe predates me.
Yeah,
Bill
he goes
Davidson
way back.
It's around that time, and Larry Miller came in
Larry Miller. I didn't see. I would not have predicted that one. That was
Look
interesting.
how well the Jazz have done in that community. Think about that.
Yeah.
Smallest market, built a building.
I think for your 25th anniversary, though, you have to rectify the Utah Jazz having the most inexplicable name. Yeah, just.
And we'll give the Lakers back to Minneapolis.
Yes, I want you to do for your 25th year. Just rectify all these things. Okay. Worst owner. This has to be Ted Stepien.
I don't like to speak ill of the departed.
But you had to create a rule to undo all the damage you did.
It was a fiasco.
Okay.
And it wasn't just him, the people advising him. He just, wow.
You actually had
giving away draft picks for big bodies.
You actually had to give them compensatory first-round picks to undo the damage.
Well, we had to add a pick or so to incentivize Gordon Gunn to buy the team. 25 years ago.
Yeah. Single biggest crisis, I'm going to say it's tough because Donahue and Artest. I got to say Artest. I think that having somebody run in the stands is worse.
It's interesting. I said that at the time that Donahue may have been the worst, but I just did a little lunch with some of our young new employees here, and I said I think Artest was actually the worst because that whole scene.
Right.
Because of the what it did in unleashing the media, talk radio. I mean, and then any occasion that the words thugs and punks flowed so easily, and suddenly began to characterize all players. I thought it was just extremely unfair. And then, anytime I did an interview, I remember doing a stand-up in Europe, where I couldn't see what was on screen, and they say, "Tell me, Commissioner, about the brawl in Detroit." I said, "I assume what you're doing is running footage as we speak." Yes, I said, "Oh, good. I'm glad to provide the opportunity for you to do that."
Right. That was the perfect storm for everything you had ever been terrified about.
Correct.
It all that kind of came together in the one incident.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and you probably remember where you were when you heard about it.
I actually was watching it.
You were watching the game.
It was a Friday night.
Yeah, it was.
I was in the kitchen, probably sneaking some peanut butter and jelly or something like that. My wife was in the next room watching something else on TV, and I had sort of stepped into the kitchen to get something or do something, and I flipped on the game. I believe it was on ESPN, and all I knew is I called Russ Granick and said, "Are you watching this? If you're not, turn it on. You're not going to believe it."
And you slept maybe 40 minutes that night.
Oh my, we were doing a lot of work for a long period of time, but we made our decision by Sunday.
This is a tough one. Single best idea that you personally or one of your staff members had during that 25 years. My guess would be All-Star Weekend.
Okay, ask the question again.
The best idea that your administration came up with for 25 years.
Okay, I would say that making the All-Star into an event that celebrates our game, and it's a rolling idea because yes, there was the old timers game. Mm-hmm. Yes, there was the slam dunk. Then it became the 3-point shot contest, and then really just making the weekend and then the rookie game against the sophomores.
Yeah.
And then bringing the legends back because they might not be a good idea to have them pulling their ACLs, but more to the point of just making it into a big event, welcoming them back and making it part family reunion.
And having people actually making it a destination for NBA fans.
Correct.
That's
so
nice.
It's really it's a fun event. It's hard to keep adding elements to it, but then we also we would bring in a D-League All-Star game, bring in the WNBA folks to work with us, do the wheelchair basketball championship there. just making that city the basketball capital of the world. Very exciting, and it's fun.
My runner-up choice would have been the first Dream Team and how that whole thing unfolded, because I just thought that pushed.
That wasn't our idea.
Yeah, I know. It
just happened. That was our response to other issues.
All right, idea that you would love to have a mulligan on if you could do it over again. My personal choice for this, I think, obviously you think I'm going to make the WNBA joke here, which I'm not. I think the league overexpanded too much in the early mid-'90s.
Huh.
That would be my mulligan.
I don't know. Interestingly enough, I'm not sitting here with a list of successes and failures, because I'm sure we've had plenty of both. But, that's the price that you pay for trying to do something different and new. And
so there's not one that
maybe,
you like,
well,
man, I wish I had a mulligan.
As it turned out, I wish we hadn't had the Vancouver experience.
For what reason?
Great city, and we disappointed them. And we disappointed ourselves.
And you feel like you can't go back now?
I don't think we can go back, and I think that was a great city, and I just think that we just didn't take advantage of the opportunity. Maybe we shouldn't have done it there. Maybe we should have only expanded into Toronto and not done Toronto and Vancouver. But that's a great disappointment to me.
All right, so that was a good answer.
Yes.
Most underrated reason for your success? I would say it's the fact that you legitimately love basketball.
Actually, it's the people of the NBA. That people forget that we've got several hundred people here, and they all love the game, and it ties us together. But they all enjoy working with each other, and they're all pushing each other to do better and do more. And the variety of things that we do have nothing to do, in some cases, with me. It's with people. I say yes or no. Someone comes in and says, I think we should have a 3-point shot contest, and I say, that's the stupidest idea I ever heard. And then they try it, and everyone says, boy, what a great idea David had. Okay, yeah. But it wasn't mine. It came from the people. And, whether we should play 4 exhibition games in Europe this year or 2 exhibition games in China, whether we should start NBA TV or NBA.com. I mean, these happened on my watch, but they have to do with the people of the NBA. And a lot of us, most of us really like the game. And so on top of everything else, we can sit around talking about, somewhat obscure details of whether, Wedman was number 7 or number 6 coming off the bench, and having some fun with the history of the NBA.
I think you sold yourself a little short there, because I think part of the reason your team comes up with great ideas is because you are a demanding boss.
That's true, but you know what? They're a demanding team, and we push at each other. Because the one thing we've learned is if you stand still, you go backwards.
Last one. Thing that you're most proud of. I would say globalization.
It's globalization, but it's actually NBA cares.
Oh, man, that was my second choice.
Okay, I mean, we just meeting with the UN, we were talking about what's going on. Yes, we've played 92 games outside of the U.S. 92.
Wow.
That's without the Olympics and the World Championships. We've had 700 events outside the U.S., but in each of them, most recently, we do everything. We build places to live, places to learn, places to play. We have clinics. We stress basketball combined with healthy lifestyles and education. It's a dream come true to combine globalization with support for nothing but nets fighting malaria, to provide visitations by great NBA players and legends to refugee camps where people think they've been forgotten. Mm-hmm. And it all comes under a broader NBA NBA International, NBA Cares. But I think that, and again, by the way, what people don't know is basketball became an Olympic sport in 1936. So we've been an Olympic sport for 70 years. That was even before even I was born.
Wow. And
China played in the Olympics in 1936. So they think they invented the game. So we've come into some pretty good, very good circumstances, and we push each other to keep doing it. And so suddenly we've got over 100 people in China, and that's fun. and that's great. But we also work on earthquake relief, and we worked on AIDS awareness with Yao Ming and Magic, and we've built basketball courts, and we've gone to refugee camps, immigrant worker kids in their schools. So it combines a lot of passions, and the passion of doing well and doing good is really a great place to have that meeting and to have it at your job.
Well, it's been an amazing job because I think out of all the sports, it's evolved the most, the league. And, partly because of you, but also because I think the league just became so much more popular. And you look at the league that you took over and you heard all this stuff about these guys are on drugs, the league's too black, we can't get them on prime time. And to look where it is now, it's staggering.
By the way, I'm happy to take some of the, of the glow, but it's a great game. In case nobody noticed it, and the world is playing it. And so that makes it easy.
I don't think people realize that you guys had the Sixers and the Lakers in 1982, Kareem and Magic versus Dr. J, and it was on tape delay. And it ran at 11:30 at night on CBS.
Yep.
And now the league is where it is. It is
where it is. You're kind to notice and remember.
Well, thank you for coming on. Congrats on the anniversary that's coming up. I think you should grow a mustache for the actual date, just to kind of bring it full circle.
So maybe I should color my hair black.
You could do that too,
and lose 20 pounds.
You could do all of that.
All of that. Thank you for being interested.
All right, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Okay, bye. Well, normally I'd end it with Mr. Stern, but since it's the 100th BS report, and coincidentally, falling out of the sky, the Yankees making really one of the dumbest contract offers and acceptances in the history of baseball. $160 million for CC Sabathia. It looks like that's going to happen. So we'd be remiss if we didn't call America's favorite podcast friend, Mr. JackO. Let's give him a ring.
Complex Litigation, this is John.
Johnny.
Hey, I should have answered and said CC Sabathia headquarters.
Have you talked yourself into it? It's been like 3 hours.
I definitely have. I actually first learned the news like this morning on ESPN of all places at about 6:30. So I've had a good about 7.5 hours to talk myself into it.
You know what else happened during that 8 hours?
I'm afraid to ask what.
CC Sabathia was eating pancakes for 8 straight hours to celebrate the signing.
$160 million will buy a lot of pancakes, my friend.
He weighed 290 when he agreed to the deal. He now weighs 301.
The Yanks have done well with big, hefty guys. Babe Ruth, David Wells. Come on. It's a long tradition.
You were vehemently against this idea about a month ago.
Well, the last time we had a podcast, I was like, not that I was vehemently against it. I just thought, he's not Santana, and I will still say that they should have got. I will continue to go to my grave saying they should have traded for Johan Santana. He's not Santana, but they are unquestionably a better team today than they were yesterday. I mean, their pitching staff yesterday was Ching-Ming Wang, Jabba Chamberlain, and 3 question marks. Today, it's CC Sabathia, Wang, Jabba, and 2 question marks. So we're ahead of the game there, I mean, I don't think that he's not Roy Halladay, he's not Johan Santana, but he's a quality lefty. He's going to give you a lot of innings.
They paid him the most money a pitcher's ever got in his entire career.
Well, they had to overpay because he obviously didn't want to pitch in New York. I mean,
I don't know
what's
if overpay.
What's money to the Yankees, though? It's just money.
You can't say the word overpay here. It's got to be whatever is just level beyond that.
Uber pay? They overpaid?
They overpaid him.
They overpaid him.
Hey, look, listen, anytime you can get a guy who is out of shape and who's never pitched well in the postseason, I think you got to do it. I think you got to pay the extra $70 million to make sure you get him.
I mean, the guy was a horse last year. He won the Cy Young 2 years ago. I know he was not great in the playoffs. I understand that's what it's all about, but, we'll see what happens. That was then, more maturity under his belt, a lot of other things under his belt. I'm going to talk myself into it.
I missed the first part of what you said. You said he's as big as a horse? It's so great. I have to say, Christmas is 3 weeks away. Really, all I wanted from Santa was for you to complain about CC Sabathia for the next 7 years and every phone call we have, and now we're here. We've arrived.
See, I mean, I know this is a typical Red Sox response, like anything the Yankees do is bad, but I don't know. I'm going to be excited for today. When we continue these podcasts into April and May, mark this down. You can play this recording, and when I'm lamenting the fact that he's horrible and has had bad starts. But for today, I feel good. I think it's a good thing. It's a good move.
I'm going to say when the fans of your biggest opponent are actively rooting for you to do a signing and then it happens, that's probably not a good sign that you made a good signing.
I know, and the Red Sox fans are all happy today, or at least they think they are. I know, but they've been wrong.
We know we are.
All right.
We know we're happy.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
The guy has been, as you said, he's no Johan Santana, who you could have had last year for $120 million if you'd given up Phil Hughes.
Oh, I know, and and obviously they regret that decision because now it cost them $40 million more to get a guy who's not as good.
And you gave away last season.
Mistake. Right, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. I understand that he is what he is, but I think he's an upgrade. He's an upgrade over Wong as a number one starter, too.
You know what's a good sign, though? I will say, flipping this around a little bit. The guy, really liked playing in Milwaukee. He's made it clear he wanted to play in the West Coast. Never, ever at any point did he say he wanted to play in a big market. And you just gradually threw enough money at him that he talked himself into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That always works out.
That'll work out fine. It'll be good.
That should be great. Literally, he was like, nah, I'm really not interested. Nah, no thanks. How much? All right, I guess I could live in Hoboken.
I mean, the fact that he was he was in the hallways of the Bellagio, begging the Dodgers, please make me any kind of an offer close. I know those are good signs. I know, but
I'm going to say it's a bad sign.
Yeah, well, I'm going to choose to go glass half full and say it wasn't a good sign.
Are they televising the press conference?
I don't know. That hasn't been announced when there's going to be a press conference yet, but I'm sure they will.
I think he's going to be crying as he signs a contract like Irene Cara in Fame when she had to take her shirt off. Just sobbing, writing her signature
Well, the
down.
biggest joke ever is if they try and put some spin on it, like he's always wanted to be a Yankee, or they can't even say that with a straight face or anything. Like it's a dream come true to put on the pinstripes, Nobody's going to be buying that.
Just once in my life as a sports fan, I want one of these guys to just say, you know what? They offered me a lot of money. That's really it. That's my only reason.
I hate New York. I thought of raising my kids here, but $160 million is tough to turn down, right?
I've never been a fan of the media. I don't know where I'm going to live. I'm building a house in California. It's 3,000 miles away.
He could buy himself. He could probably rent like a private jet. He could fly every fifth day just to be in New York or wherever they're playing.
CC's told his agent before. So here are the three things that are really important to me. I want to play in the National League. I want to play for a smaller market city, and preferably California because that's where I'm building the house. And the guy comes back 2 weeks later. He's like, all right, here's what we got: New York, American League, a ton of money.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I know it's $60 million more, but he could have had all that in Milwaukee. Well, not the California part, obviously, but he could have had a smaller city in the National League in Milwaukee. They offered him 100. Now, 100 is enough for him to save face with the union, to be like, look, it's my family's happiness, my happiness. I took $100 million. So he could have done that. I mean, there has to be some part of him that was intrigued by the Yankees thought of it.
It would have been so great if he did that. I just think the union would have been so bummed out, and it would have been this great moment in player-fan relationships where this guy's like, I didn't just leave $2 million on the table. I left 60.
Right.
Because I like Milwaukee, and I would rather be heavy here than in New York. They're going to make fat jokes about me for
the brats and the beers, right.
What happens if he starts out slow?
Well, it's going to be ugly. I mean, he already starts out behind the eight ball because, he's hung on now for like a month, left the Yankees twisting in the wind, and they had to sweeten the pot with one more year and $20 million. Mm-hmm. So he already is not like the most popular new Yankee of all time because people don't believe that, they think that Cashman, who had to grovel and embarrass himself in this process of flying all over the earth and bringing in Reggie Jackson and telling him how wonderful New York is. I mean, There was a time in life when the New York Yankees could just say, we're the New York Yankees and we're interested in you. Guys would beg them like it wouldn't be vice versa,
How many African-American players do you have now?
Well, Jeter is half African-American.
Right.
We have Sabathia.
I think that's
it. Remember, the Red Sox have none.
Well, the Red Sox have none, and the Yankees have one, and Jeter's biracial.
One of the big problems in baseball now is, and they've talked about this with last year being the 50th anniversary of Jackie Robinson, is the dearth of African Americans that are interested in baseball anymore.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a phys ed teacher in grammar school in Hartford, which is it's predominantly African American school, and all the kids want to do is like play basketball and football. There's like no interest in baseball anymore, which is sad,
Well, in basketball it's a little easier because you just basically need a ball and
it's
court.
certainly
Baseball,
cheaper, right?
You need bats, you get gloves, you got to organize it, you got to find a field.
Right.
But I just think.
So you were trying to think like who CC's going to hang out with in the Yankee?
No, I wasn't even thinking that. I just think it's funny that until he signed with the Yankees, this Yankees-Red Sox rivalry, the two teams that, other than maybe the Mets, have the most money in Major League Baseball, and neither of them had an African-American player.
Right. I mean, the Yankees,
the
Yankees had Tim Raines and Darryl Strawberry and Cecil Fielder a few years ago, but
yeah,
no more. I mean, it's all Latin players nowadays,
So they paid the extra $60 million for him basically because they're opening this new stadium. And Teixeira's probably not going. I don't know. Maybe do they still get him now? I don't know how that has.
Well, what the thing is, like the Yankees they took $90 million off the books between like Giambi and Pettit and Mussina and Pavano. So by adding him, all they've done is add $23 million of that $90 million back.
It was actually more than 90 because it was an extra $5 million for psychologists, steroids, HGH, doctors.
Right, so call it 95.
So it was 95, yeah, it was 95.
So you're still talking another, 23. You're still talking another $70 million they have to play with, roughly.
Well, I pray to the holy baseball Jesus that you don't get Mark Teixeira.
Oh, that's what I really want. I mean, that's the thing is like, I like if you look at their team right now. Okay, their rotation is halfway decent with Sabathia and Wong and Jabba, and maybe they bring back Pettit. Rumors are now they're close to a deal with Derek Lowe for another 4 years, $66 million or something. So, that's another $15-16 million a year.
I thought he was going to the Dodgers.
Now the rumor is the Yankees are like in active negotiations with him.
Oh, I didn't want you to get Derek Lowe. I actually think that makes sense.
So now if you have Sabathia, Wong, Jabba, Lowe, and maybe they bring back Pettit or they go with Hughes. It's not an awful rotation. But then I
think Hughes will definitely be in that rotation.
But then you look at their offense, and it's like at first base, I guess they're going to go with the immortal Nick Swisher, and then center field you have the immortal Melky Cabrera Brett Gardner combo.
It's quite a platoon.
And I'm not sure an outfield of Johnny Damon in left, Gardner and Melky in center, and Xavier Nady in right is like a World Series outfield. And there's not a lot of pop in that lineup outside of A-Rod.
Metsu is the DH in this scenario?
Metsu is the DH in that scenario, yes.
That's actually good for him because he'd only have to bat like 4 or 5 times a game. You just watch porn the other 3 hours. He can watch samplings from his 4,000 movie DVD porn collection that he secretly has that was written about once and never mentioned again.
He can have the portable DVD player, so it'll work out perfectly for him in the clubhouse. But I think they need another bat, which is why I would love for them to get Teixeira. That's the guy I really would like them to get.
Who's your backup choice?
Well, I'm intrigued by the fact that Manny, this is going to sound ridiculous, but I'm intrigued by the fact that Manny's just hanging out there. You think Manny could maybe sign for like 1 year, like another contract year? Boris could convince him, like, we'll really set the market next year? 1 big year in New York?
I don't know. That's such a slap in the face. Like, they weaseled their way out of this 2-year, $40 million commitment and besmirched, his name a little bit. And
but no one's coming forward with 4 years and $100 million for him.
Which is crazy.
His antics were a little too much.
Where are the Angels in this? Manny is like this beautiful Zennish suit that's for sale for like 90% off, and you just, I don't even need a suit, but I just got to do this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
You put him in that lineup and you re-sign Tex and you get a year out of Vlad or you trade him or whatever. Like that's my worst fear for them. And I don't want you to get Tex either.
Their whole thing is, well, you guys might be in the mix for him.
Something's going on with the Sox. They're almost like it's like I don't know. It's like they're at a poker table or something, and they're pretending they're in the hands, but they really have a plan down the road to get in like the fourth hand. Or that's a bad analogy. I mean, you know what I mean, though. It seems like they're doing something weird is going on with this.
Well, there's all kinds of rumors that they're like hot for Teixeira, which I don't know what you do then with Euclid and Lowell. I guess you take Lowell out and shoot him, and you move Euclid to third.
Makes no sense because Lowell makes like $12 million. He can't trade Euc.
Yeah, but he's such an upgrade in offense with Tex, and they can't trade Lowell, who's 80.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can either didn't Lowell used to be a catcher way back when? Can he catch? Can he replace Peck?
Well, that was the greatest moment of the winter so far. Veritek turning down the 1-year, $10 million arbitration, thinking he's going to get more.
Oh.
He was swinging a freaking Genoa salami for 4 months.
Such a bad idea. Where's Boris whispering in his ear that he's going to go get a big time contract?
The thing we've learned with Boris is that sometimes he makes these connections, and he's like, if you do this, then later on I'll do this. I think that's how the Red Sox ended up with J.D. Drew.
Right.
The $14 million Grand Slam, which actually hasn't been a great signing. But
he got $14 million for Nancy Drew, and then he lowballed Dice K.
Yeah, exactly.
He had Dice K come in for like whatever it was, 4 years and $40 million or whatever the deal was after they paid the $60 million posting fee or whatever. But yeah, that could be it.
Yeah, Dice somehow is making like $50,000 a year.
Does he represent Teixeira, Boris?
Yeah.
Maybe he can maybe he's like, throw Tech a token offer and I'll give you a cut rate on Teixeira. Tech could be the backup catcher for the Yankees.
Interesting. You don't have Pudge anymore, right?
No. I think they're going to go for. Posada will be back, and I think they still have Jose Molina to be the backup.
Well, it could be worse. Your team could have signed K-Rod to be your new closer.
Exactly, but they got him for a cheap price too.
They did, but did you ever? I know the stats were there and all that stuff, but did you ever face K-Rod and feel like you weren't going to hit him?
No, he's not Mariano Rivera, no.
Yeah.
But in the National League, he might be. I mean, it's a big upgrade going to the National League from the American.
They better hope. I love the fact that people continue to espouse that he's 26 years old.
Yeah,
if he's 26, then I'm 25.
Yeah, he has the same birth certificate that Freddie Adu has,
He was 20 when he came up in the 2002 poster. Oh, really? He was 20?
Remember after 9/11 when the government cracked down on being able to come into this country and all these guys that were from Venezuela or the Dominican, it turned out he's like, did I say 25? I meant 35. I'm sorry.
The Yanks had that with Soriano. That almost held up the A-Rod trade. Cashman had to call the Texas GM at the last minute and be like, oh, I forgot to tell you. Soriano's not 27, he's 30, or whatever the age difference was.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. They're like actresses.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's just so crazy. You can just, birth certificates are like, you can just erase it and write whatever number you want,
I think the Red Sox, in my opinion, they have something up their sleeve that's not going to be a signing. It's going to be more a trade.
Some big trade, some blockbuster trade that Theo will blow us all away with.
Something where they end up taking on more money long term, but they get like one of those Jake Peavy types and somebody else who's good, and then, obviously whatever Theo does, he's the national media is just going to stroke whatever decision he made, so they can take any chance they want.
Right.
Brilliant!
Exactly.
And they gave up one of the top 5 prospects in baseball, Craig Hansen. So he's in a no-lose situation. But
he trades like Masterson for Jamie Moyer, and they're like, brilliant move by Theo.
Had to cut the cord with Masterson. Had to do it.
Yeah.
His arm motion was way off. He had to go.
Would have been injury problems down the line.
Yeah. Oh, it's man, if I could just be Theo for a year, I'd be the happiest guy on the planet.
Yeah, there's absolutely everything you do, it's gold in the media's opinion, absolutely.
We signed Julio Lugo to a 4-year contract extension that takes it to 2015. Brilliant. You got to lock him up.
Good veteran presence on the bench.
Got to do it. He really is the key to the clubhouse chemistry.
Who was your rotation now? Obviously Beckett and Lester and Dice K.
Right.
And then who are the other two?
Justin Masterson.
Masterson is going to be a starter now, because wasn't he in the bullpen last year?
How dare you forget about 47-year-old Tim Wakefield?
Well, that's just it. I mean, Tim Wakefield, you're killing me on Sabathia. I mean, granted he's not on the hook for $160 million, but still, Wakefield is not exactly, the reincarnation of Cy Young.
I got to say, I was really kind of secretly had my fingers crossed that Pedro would come back for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, apparently I'm the only Red Sox fan left in the country who's still attached to Pedro and thinks it would be cool if he could come back and
one final swing.
Yeah, he's meant so much to the team, and I don't know. I feel like we get one good year out of him. I'd rather go that road than.
That's why you wanted D-Lo to come back, the D-Lo face back in Boston. That would be exciting. Would it be weird to see the Derek Lowe face in pinstripes?
I mean, there's a lot of positives.
Yeah, he wouldn't mind seeing it when he's making a face after giving up 3 home runs. Sure.
The thing about D'Lo though is that he started game 4 and he started game 7 of the greatest comeback of all time. Pitched game 7 on 2 days rest in Yankee Stadium and won it. So it's very hard for me to rip on him.
He's that really for you.
When you talk about like the most underrated baseball performances ever, him going on 2 days rest and going like 6 or 7 innings, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, I was there for that, unfortunately.
You want to talk about it some more?
No.
Do you remember that?
It helped them the fact that Kevin Brown, it was 6-0 before I was like comfortably in my seat. Like I just went to get a beer and it was like 6-0. So that helped D'Lo's performance as well, but still.
Do you think karmically looking back, the fact that your entire 2014 landed in the Mitchell report maybe was karmically not a good thing for you?
Well, it didn't help, but of course I'll go to my grave saying 2 things. 1, that the Yankees should have gotten Santana, and 2, that George Mitchell, as like a stockholder in the Red Sox, was not a fair and impartial source. And one of the great mysteries of life is that there was not a single Red Sox that was apparently ever even heard the word steroids in the steroid era. That was pretty incredible.
Plain clean, Johnny. Old school.
And guys like Novar and Veritek and Big Papi that like came out of nowhere and had big years and then rapidly declined. I'm sure that had nothing to do with any sort of illegal substances, or no syringes were involved in that.
First of all, how dare you besmirch 3 of the greatest Red Sox legends ever? And second of all, how dare you leave Trot Nixon out of that sentence if you're going to go there?
It's a good point. I completely forgot about Trotter. That's right.
Well, look, I think what we're gradually realizing is that pretty much everybody from 1992 to 2004 at least has to be under suspicion.
And who was the guy that the Red Sox had that was like a just a utility reserve guy, like Manny something, like
Manny Alexander? Yeah, he was the only guy we ever had who got caught.
And they had like syringes in his glove compartment or something.
Yeah.
Somehow no one else on the Red Sox was ever involved in that. He was the only one.
He's friends with everyone on the team.
Just the reserve guy, like the 25th guy on the roster. He just was the only one.
Listen, Johnny.
The only bad apple in the bunch.
There were 24 guys in the clubhouse who were very shocked when that news came out.
I can imagine.
That Manny was keeping the secret life. Nobody had any idea.
No, it's awful.
All right, well, we'll come back to you as the winter baseball thing comes along. You're still married?
I still am, yeah. 90, what's it been?
4 days?
72 hours, 96 hours. Yeah, not quite 96 hours and counting, yeah.
How's life changed for you?
I can't say that it really has. I find it uncomfortable to wear a wedding ring. That's sort of bothering me. That's my biggest problem is, like, I find myself taking it off and, like, flipping it and playing it with it. And, like, just something for my nervous energy, but it's not really that comfortable on my hand. I hope that's not an omen of anything, but I don't know. I'm not like a jewelry guy normally, so.
I could have predicted that. You're one of those guys who always fidgets with things and plays with things and can't. So the wedding ring is like right in your wheelhouse for that stuff.
When the 2009 Yankees win the World Series, I hope I don't find the World Series ring they share with me for all my yeoman service on the podcast uncomfortable.
Listen, the way you flipped on Sabathia and became a full supporter ranked with some of your best work.
I should be like their PR director because I could spin this to anybody, completely to their favor.
All right, Johnny, congratulations on just an absurd contract.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that's it for the 100th BS report. I'd like to thank David Stern. I'd like to thank my buddy JackO. And most importantly, I'd like to thank everybody who listens and likes the show and sends emails about it and suggestions and everything else. Hopefully the next 100 will be even better. A little disappointing we didn't make the best of iTunes podcast list this year. I was devastated. I made it in 2007, did not make it in 2008. I don't know what happened. Obviously I slipped talent-wise, or the show slipped or something. I am all kinds of motivated now for 2009, so stay tuned for that. And we'll come back tomorrow with the great Mark Stein. Talk to you then.
So I get to sign off. Whoa.
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.